How many times have you looked at pictures of these ancient people, or gods with wings and animal heads? But one detail has long escaped everyone. A detail that when you see it starts to intrigue you. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary bag. Some would say nothing special. But why are the same bags carved in the hands of gods all over the world? Let's start somewhere from the beginning. Göbekli Tepe, which is considered to be the beginning of the explosion of knowledge, was built in 9600 BC, at a time when people were primitive nomads, which is a fact described in many writings. Here are 3 mysterious bags carved on a stone which was eventually deciphered, and which represents the position of the constellations in the sky at the time of construction. Therefore, the builders had the need to describe the beginning of time as a sign when they brought advanced knowledge to people, or to leave a trace of a past civilization wiped out by a cataclysm. On that stone, 43 is represented the time of the catastrophe that initiated the Great Flood. The animals carved on it are a representation of the known constellations of that time. The researchers discovered that exactly such a position of the constellations was 10,950 years before Christ, exactly at the time of the famous Ice Age that lasted from 12,900 to 11,600 years. On the very top of the stone 43, 3 purses are painted obviously on the top, which represents their higher hierarchy and great importance. This also means that at that time there was a group of people advanced intelligent enough to use the stars to record the event in a time. Generally represent symbols of mysterious handbags, is the same form that appears all over the world: Mesopotamia, Central America, Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, and even on isolated islands in the middle of the ocean, which are a separate story because the way to them at that time was supposedly absolutely impossible. While official history teaches us that civilizations completely unrelated lived and developed all across the world on their own, what is important to emphasize is the fact that the official narrative adheres to the theory of the disconnection of civilizations, because there is no physical solid evidence that civilizations thousands of miles away from each other had technological conditions or red ships to visit and exchange knowledge. However, there are countless indicators from pyramids of stone blocks to the symbol of the Tree of Life, and even such symbols of purses that clearly prove that at that time, ancient peoples somehow exchanged knowledge. How they managed it, we will try to demystify through today's story. We can start from the supposed known beginning, from Mesopotamia, where stonemasons of ancient Sumer, Assyrians, Hurrians, ancient Armenians, Babylonians, and Phoenicians carved mystical trinkets. Believe it or not, they all carved the same symbol of handbags. They even appear before the ancient Aztecs and Mayans, including the Olmec and Toltec empires. They are also found among the ancient tribes of Verarus, today's Italy and Bosnia. They were found even in the oldest cave drawings of certain Indian tribes. What should be noted is that the bags are strikingly similar in design and by no means accidentally born all over the world. On each of them, there are specific depictions that differ from people to people, but the shape and essence of the mystical bag is the same for all of them. The question arises why? What is so important in that bag? What is hidden in it? It is also noted that the way the purse is held was important to different civilizations, with the outstretched thumb under the mystical flower clock. Don't forget that now it worked for the gods and not for the carvings of ordinary people. This further collapses the argument of the ordinary purse, because even if it was represented in the ordinary world, why would the gods carry a purse? Doesn't it make sense? What is interesting is the fact how different the civilizations were from dressing the customs of the gods of footwear, but somehow they all shared a passion for the same purses in the hands of the gods. There are several theories about the mysterious purse. One is that it represents the cosmos. The holder in that theory represents the firmament, while the bag represents the earth, and the two buckles the unbreakable connection between the sky and the earth. Those who know about Hermeticism know about the belief, as above, so below. This connection represents the union of the spiritual and material, sacred and living, mortal and immortal. However, everyone who knows the ancient megalithic civilizations well knows how well they knew the positions of the cosmos. The star of the eclipse of the ecliptic would expect such astronomical experts to describe the cosmos with one bag is illogical, especially since different civilizations had different views of the cosmos, which somehow disproves this theory. What is fascinating is the fact that knowledge somehow literally fell from the sky. From where does serious architecture begin? Pyramids are built, city water collectors are constructed, stone blocks of 900 tons are raised. They precisely drill holes in granite stone or make roads through stone, according to the logic of things. All the events that take place suddenly take place when some kind of sage appears, some man or group of people, a group of sages who have a significantly greater intellect, so great that they change the world. Does the symbol of the purse in the hands of the gods symbolize the knowledge that is passed on to nomadic peoples or backward peoples in order to show them a more modern approach to life? This seems like the most realistic answer that is always waiting for a knife, because it requires some kind of higher power that never has a place in a materialistic understanding of the world. How to explain a handful of examples, such as these airships by the Aztecs in Mexico, by the Maori in New Zealand, the Olmecs of ancient Egypt. From where these people such advanced ideas? Mind you, this is thousands of years ago, and how to connect such modern notions with slaves dragging stone. Imagine at that time someone just like that in different parts of the world painting some kind of people flying in airplanes. Isn't this a clear indication that materialism is not the most realistic theory about everything? So Einstein, Tesla, Bohr, and Maxwell turn out to be small ants compared to the one who drew airplanes 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, right? For example, this Greek sculpture can also be about a maid who brings a mirror to the landlady. But the question arises why the mirror would have two round entrances in it, like today's laptops, or this fascinating Indian sculpture where the woman on the left holds some kind of device near her ear, which today you will agree seems to be an indispensable detail for each of us, or the person standing on the right is writing with some kind of strange pen for that time. Is this are not clear indications that there are people walking among us with inexplicable abilities to see things from the far future? I think yes, and I think the mysterious purse has something to do with this. An even crazier time traveler carved in the Sete Temple thousands of years before Da Vinci, helicopters, and specific aircraft that obviously have nothing to do with birds, but clearly show the modern design of aircraft, and not one, but helicopters, submarines, and flying object. No less and no more than all three that we own today, even one of which we do not own, and that is a spaceship. If we look carefully at the Olmec statue, better known as the Quetzalcoatl, or the feathered serpent we see here, we clearly see a man sitting in some kind of device, enclosed by a snake and holding no less than the famous purse, which is difficult to explain as a fashion detail in this case. The way he holds the purse is particularly interesting because it is somehow unnatural, and it seems as if it is the only way it has to be held in order for the meaning of what this painting represents to happen. And this sculpture from Veracruz, Mexico, is also interesting, especially since it dates from a similar era as the Quetzalcoatl, figurine of a small man holding a mystical pouch. Some even compare the purse with the bag that today's astronauts carry before boarding. Is it all just symbolism, or is there something more? However, if we look at who carries the handbags and compare it to existing records, some things can really be tied together into a tangible theory of what they represent and why they are so important. The ancient Olmec god, for example, was the god of the Maya, Aztec, Inca, and many other cultures of that region. Judging by the myth of the American peoples of that time, Quetzalcoatl was someone who appeared at some time in the distant past and brought knowledge to primitive tribes. Knowledge of agriculture and engineering, laws and religion, and so on. Quetzalcoatl was actually the founder of all Middle American civilizations. Remember this phrase: he comes out of nowhere, far in the past, and brings knowledge to primitive tribes. Then we have the Assyrian Tree of Life, which was of the greatest importance. In the picture, we also see gods with purses who seem to be gathering knowledge from that tree. So everything points to the fact that all civilizations had their gods who taught them advanced knowledge. Unbelievable, but at the other end of the world, among the Hindus, above the famous Shiva who is sitting, there is a tree of life and a magical purse that is higher on the branch, which indicates that the purse is connected to the center of everything, or the tree of life. It must possess the content that is collected from the tree of life, which represents the entire higher knowledge. And Shiva, like the Quetzalcoatl, is the creator of everything intelligent that exists naturally in its civilizations. Even more interesting, we found the same thing on the island of Sumba in Indonesia. Same handbag next to a very important figure that Indonesia represents as a hero of its people, who symbolically represent the connection between people and God. A similar story is also related to the fish-shaped god, the famous god of Mesopotamia, Ons, who also holds a mysterious bag, and who, according to tradition, is also considered as someone who appears and teaches the primitive people of that time advanced knowledge. Ons is also considered the originator of the smart age of ancient Mesopotamia. What is especially intriguing is the fact that Ons did not come alone, but came in a group of 7 wise men. And now the story becomes even more interesting. There are writings from the 3rd century from a Babylonian priest named Berosus, who wrote that 7 wise men visited Mesopotamia at a time when people lived like animals. They taught them letters, to build houses, laws, agriculture, all to be as humane as possible. Also, the famous story about Elohim in the Bible begins to make sense as you know all this knowledge. So, the conclusion that follows is the following. Different civilizations around the world have their own visitors who pass on advanced knowledge to them and who are later celebrated as gods. All these indicators are sufficient logical examples for people with an open mind that these are some people who came here, or time travelers who influenced the development path of ancient peoples.